Hello world, and welcome back to We the People, an American pod show. Tonight, we have Tom Bendt with us. Did I say that correct, Tom?
You did say that correctly. Very good.
Tom, I want to welcome you to the show.
There we go.
We're doing shoulder or elbow bumps,
Right on. That works. That's a good thing.
Nowadays.
Yes.
So, first off and foremost, like I said, I want to welcome you to the show, and we appreciate you coming out to share your story and hear about what Tom's got going on.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me. I've not done this before. This will be a lot of fun for me.
Nice. So, the first place I would say we start is, where are you from?
Actually, from South Dakota, born and raised. Grew up there, went to high school there, went to college there, and spent the first 40 years of my life there until we moved out to Portland a while back. So that's the beginning of where things happened.
So what happens in South Dakota?
What happens in South Dakota? Well, in the wintertime, it's cold in South Dakota, obviously.
How
we've
cold?
had 20, 25 below wind, normal sometimes, and wind chills up to 60 or 70 below. We actually had one winter back when I was coaching basketball that we actually had school canceled for a week because the wind chill was 70 degrees below zero. So, and it can be hot and humid in the summer, so you get all the seasons in South Dakota. You get to see it all.
I did, so when I did my military time, I was in the service, and I was in Alaska. And, man, I think the coldest I got to experience was like 60 below. And cold, I always try to explain to people cold is just cold, right? Like even at 70 below, was it just, it's cold, it's dry?
There's a point where, like I said, you have to feel it. I don't think you can explain to people how cold it is, right? They have to feel it on their skin to feel what it's like, actually.
Right. Yeah. Do all your limbs, like when it gets cold, do you just like all of a sudden your limbs are all cold, right?
Exactly. You don't want to be exposed very long.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And, they warned us up there about like gas. Like they were like, if you get gas on your hand at, 30 below, it's probably not the best idea. So you have to have like gas gloves when you're pumping your gas or pumping your fuel. Granted, Oregonians don't have to worry about that.
One of the benefits of living here, it was strange when we moved here. All of a sudden, we can't pump our gas. I mean, it's a strange transition from everywhere else in the nation. For the most part, you get to do that.
Right.
So I don't mind somebody doing it for me. So I'm good. I'm good.
So, South Dakota. What's like some of the big industries out there? Like what's going on?
Agriculture is the biggest industry in South Dakota, yeah. And the state's growing a bit. Sioux Falls, which is kind of the area I'm from, a small town outside of Sioux Falls, has about 180,000 people now. So it's a good-sized city. It was actually in magazines years ago one of the top 5 small cities in the nation. So all of a sudden people influxed and came there, and things grew. So it's a very nice place to grow up. Good people there. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So. How was that? Like, how did you get to? I'm imagining 40 years, right? You get to experience some of that growth, and see what's happening, and
yeah, for sure. I went to a small school, 400 kids in my high school, so you know most everybody in that situation. So a small town upbringing and things like that. And then obviously, as we became adults and had jobs, the city started to grow, and obviously you had more things going on.
So, man, because that's completely different than here. So having that small town living, man, you really got like that tight-knit community then kind of going on. Everybody knows everybody by default. And
that's good and bad, obviously, as you would know.
Yeah, and man, so high school, you know everyone. Your parents probably know everybody, right? So you're not getting away with too much.
You're not getting away with too much. And it was one of those days back if you got in trouble in school, it wasn't the teacher's fault, obviously. It was your fault. That's kind of where I grew up, and the world obviously has changed. But yeah, it was definitely like that for sure.
Yeah, no cell phones to
Correct.
Hold the teachers accountable. Even though I don't know, I feel like sometimes, might not be a bad idea. A little bit of discipline in your life's not a bad thing. I don't know about like the switch and all that. I don't know if that's necessary. Or what was it? The history is the ruler?
Yes, the ruler, I think.
Yeah. So those days are gone, right?
Those are gone, yes. They better be gone.
At
least in this part of the world, I know they're gone, right?
Right. Yeah, I imagine there's probably some places that they still get away with it a little bit or experience it until accountability comes around.
Right.
I heard a message, I want to say it was Simon Sinek
Love Simon.
Yeah, and he was talking about how the vision, and how to focus on the vision, and how was it Bill Gates? No, Steve Jobs had a vision, and it didn't have nothing to do with electronics. That it had to do with a day when everybody could hold people accountable, and that we could compete against the big corporations.
Mm-hmm.
And the phone and the internet was just a means to fulfill that vision.
Mm-hmm. Kind of equal the playing field for people, I think, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So what's your background then when it comes to like work and stuff like that? I mean, are you a college educated man? Did you do like where'd you work? Talk to us about that.
Well, I have to admit I did go to college because obviously I've become a teacher and a coach, and I have not faked those things. Those things are real. If anybody in HR is watching, it is real. It has happened.
Right.
But I did grow up and went to college, got into education. As a high school kid, I loved sports. I enjoyed school, those types of things. Got into it in college, did the whole student teaching thing. Got a master's degree right away. Got out in the working world and really spent... well, it's 30 years I've been in education. This is my 30th year, so it's been a long time. I know, right? I was 12 when I started, so keep that in mind.
I was
right?
going to say, whoa, wait a
Didn't mean
second.
to age myself
Yeah,
there.
he said, just got a master's right away. No way.
Yeah.
That was some work, right?
It was some work, but it was very
Yeah.
rewarding. It was one of those things where I was not the most studious person early on in college. High school came easy to me. I didn't work very hard at it. And in college, I found out it's a different world. You have to spend a little more time. So, but by the time I got to my master's degree, I really enjoyed school at that point. It really got me into reading some things, and I took a lot of pride in my studies at that point in time. And that really changed a little bit from kind of who I was to all of a sudden, oh, if you're going to be a professional, you have to, try to better yourself and do those types of things. So,
Right.
So I spent 15 years in South Dakota as a teacher and a coach, and then got on a big truck and a little car and came across the country about 15 years ago.
So I think it's important that we talk on that education a little bit, because like I feel like in today's world, there's this thing too, I'm around the construction industry. So it's like where people in the construction industry might be saying, because there's going to be they're saying that there's a labor shortage in regards to like the trades and things of that nature, and that it's a great career, and it's, it's a really good option, and that you don't always have to go into college debt. Like there's other ways and other approaches on it. But it sounds like to me like you appreciated going through school and becoming a professional and becoming educated in the arts, right? Or the profession.
Yeah, I did. I mean, actually, my parents didn't go to college, so it was one of those things where they always wanted us kids to go, and all four of us did. I have 3 brothers and sisters. We all did go and got degrees and did that, and it was important. It was an achievement. It made me feel good. And obviously, when you start looking for jobs, and again, teachers, the thing is, people think that teachers, well, if you get a 4-year degree, you make tons of money. There are people who don't have college educations and are making a great amount of money. So it's not just that avenue for people today. But for me, it worked out at the point in time when I was going to school.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I went through it.
Yeah. So you wouldn't persuade either way. It's just
I think people have to find what they want to do and enjoy it. And school's too expensive today. If you don't know what you want to be, or you're not enjoying it, or you're getting poor grades, you can throw a lot of money away really fast. So make sure you know what you want to get into.
Right. Make sure you know what you're fighting for.
Exactly.
Okay. So that makes sense. So 15 years ago, you moved to Portland. I imagine Portland's a little different than. I mean, how was that moving? I mean, you just up and left. Did you have work out here? Did you have an offer out here?
The story goes, I did a phone interview for a job out here in the Beaverton School District at Aloha High School.
Okay.
But my wife and I, at that point in time, I did not have a job here. She did. She ran her own business, and she traveled around the world, did consulting and training, so she could be just anywhere near an airport. Worked out for her. But I didn't have anything. They kept telling me, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I think it was almost our last night. We had parked our big Penske truck and her little car, and we were in the Dalles, I think, or somewhere out that direction. And HR called and said, hey, we'd like to offer you a job. And I'm like, okay. and they're like, I go, how much money? Or they told me the money, and I go,
Right.
can you say that again? Because it was definitely a pay increase from South Dakota to the Portland area. So we appreciated that part of the trip also.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we got good news pulling into town, I guess.
That's kind of cool, but I mean, it shows that like commitment, like you committed to it. You didn't know if there was going to be a job. You knew that there was the opportunity, though, right? You knew the opportunity was out here.
Right.
You know, it's definitely different than your hometown. So
Well, and I was not the one behind it. My wife really convinced me to that we need to do this and move somewhere and try something different, which has been the best thing we've ever done, by the way. She was right.
Right.
But at that point in time, I'm like, what am I getting myself into?
Right.
But yeah, we enjoyed the trip across the country, and we pulled in, and and it is a totally different world. I mean, it is day and night from where I grew up and kind of where I was before. And it's been a good way of growing up. I mean, I love being at a very diverse school in a very diverse community, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, and you're Aloha, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. It's 100% diversity. You know, it's, I mean, I would say it's that way anywhere in Portland.
Yeah.
You know, and I explain that to people that like aren't from here or haven't even experienced it. You know, where I'm like, yeah, there's just something about it. It's hard to explain. It's got all these little micro cultures and a lot of different little niches going on between like brewing and the arts and crafts and performing arts, and I mean, you name it, jazz. There's there's all sorts of these scenes, and you can't explain it. I came right after my time in the military. I came down here, and that was in 2008, and I just fell in love.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I like it here. Like,
the one thing we noticed right away was that we always felt in the Midwest people are friendly and accepting and those types of things, and we got here, and it's even more that way in Portland. I think people are very open, and people were very friendly to us right away, and we didn't know them from anybody. I mean, it was just very accepting community, and that's what's kind of kept us here, and kind of enjoyed the people obviously that I work for, friends I've made along the way, and obviously some of the kids that I've coached and worked with has been fantastic.
So do you live out that way?
Yeah, we're in Beaverton. Yep, out in Beaverton.
So Aloha, you got a Reed's Crossing going on out there. Are you aware of that? Project?
Not so much. No, out by Hillsboro, the big.
They're calling it like Lower Hillsboro.
Yes.
Lower Hillsboro or something like that.
Or Southern Hillsboro, or
whatever
yes,
name
I
it
do
is.
know.
That's going to change a lot. There's going to be a big fluctuation there, and they say it's the biggest economic development project in the state.
Wow.
So that's a significant project. There's a lot going on there. From my understanding, there's going to be the opportunity for a new fire station, even a police department, schools, of course, churches, all that. The works is all going to fit into there. So something to keep our eyes on, right?
Yes. The metropolitan area just expands, right? Further and further.
It does, man, and it's interesting to watch. I see it just in the time that I've been here. I heard a statistic that it was like something with over the next 40 years, every city in the United States will double its population.
Wow.
The
traffic on 26, I do not want to be here in that many years then. That is not the place to be.
Right. Yeah, how's that going to look, huh? They're going to expand it all and do all that?
Something, hopefully.
Yeah. So now, so what's your day-to-days like then? What do you got going on?
Right. So I was a teacher and coach at Aloha for about 9 years, and then the last 6 years I've been the athletic director at Aloha High School, which has been something that I found out from people that have become athletic directors and now living through it. You have no idea what you're doing and what you're getting into. I'll be honest with you. We're all winging it at the start because things happen, right? What am I supposed to do? But it's been super rewarding. It's one of those things where I've gotten a chance now, as a former coach for 21 years. I coached high school sports for 21 years. That now all of a sudden I get an opportunity to watch very objectively compared to when you're subjective when you're a coach, and you always see things through your eyes and not everybody's eyes the way it should be,
Right.
and then an opportunity to coach the coaches. That's been one thing that's kind of been my passion with sort of what we've been doing with, we call it, kind of become a better you, is working with coaches. You mentioned Simon Sinek,
Yeah.
getting back to, we read his book, Start With Why, and love all the things
Yeah.
that Simon does. So we're trying to get some of those things to our coaches, obviously, and for myself also, doing a lot of reading and trying to become better myself, have more knowledge to help them out, and hopefully not make the same mistakes I made for all the years that I coach, right? I mean,
Right.
that's the goal, so.
Yeah, you and I, right? We met at the AGC's. I think it was the business meeting, right? And you were presenting there, and this guy's you have a list of all these different books, like things of suggestions, and it was just massive. Like you were like, you gotta read these. These are the books you gotta read, and for me, being an avid reader, like I was like, okay, I could see books that I have already like consumed at some point, right? And so I was definitely intrigued. I'm like, oh yeah, and like it makes so much sense, and somebody in our organization where I work, he's also a reader, and he gave me this list. It's like kind of like what you did, but it was like it's like broke down into like sections. So like if you're focusing on like mentoring, then it's like all these books are focused on mentoring. If you're dealing with like maybe issues where people are conflict. So if you're dealing with conflict, all these books, and I've been trying to consume them, and it just so happens that a lot of the books that you had were like on that list of consumption. So I've been like going through them over probably last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Just like putting one in after another, boom, 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 boom.
Right.
And it's great knowledge. There's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff there.
I've really enjoyed it. I mean, from the perspective, I call myself a readaholic in some ways, and I think it's because I spent most of my life not reading.
Right.
The joke in our family was that my wife said that I needed to read a book every summer. Teachers should do that, right? It didn't matter what it was about, but I had to read a book, which I did enjoy, by the way.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, something flipped when I got this job, and a couple other ADs, we started reading the book. We read Energy Bus by John Gordon.
Great book.
And read The No Complaining Rule by John Gordon.
Right.
So we read those two, and all of a sudden it just kind of went from there. I'm like, I want to read more about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it started more with, those are feel-good books, right? I mean, those are fables, those are fun stories, and those types of things. And then found myself and another athletic director I'm working with, like, we need to get to know more in depth about how teams work.
Yeah.
So we can help our coaches. We need to understand more about leadership because coaches are leaders, and I think sometimes you're just not the leaders of the X's and O's. Like, you're a leader of people. So how do you lead people? So, culture and leadership and all these different. You talk about categories, right? And I haven't done what you're talking about, but I've got a big enough list to do it. By the way, right? It's one of my goals.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been fun, and I really can't get enough, and I don't know why because.
Right.
I've never been a reader in my life necessarily, and all of a sudden I'm just like, I just want to read another book. I want to keep going. I want to learn more.
I'll have to send you that because I think he ended up pulling it from like some magazine or something.
Okay,
like that. So,
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'll have to make sure I get it to you.
And I'll send you my whole list. I've been working on my whole list just recently since we met.
Down.
So
yeah, and it's been. I agree. There's just so much in that, and being like I spent my time in the military, right? And so doing that, like, it's like. There's like you said, there's like a switch when you all of a sudden realize that like leadership is different than managing or even coaching, right? It's a total different thing. And I feel like once you see that and once you understand that, you either go, oh,
right.
I don't want to do that, or you go, whoa, this is so influential. Like, this is life-changing, and you start realizing how little things become impactful, and it's those little steps, those little pieces, the day after day after day that it might seem mundane or you don't even realize it's happening, that it evolves into something totally different. It's kind of like take from another book is the snowball effect. With Warren Buffett. It's that same thing, little piece. And if anybody knows, right, that guy's clearly got something figured out, at least in the realm of finances. You know, so okay, so how is that transitioning from being a coach going into that? I mean, you've kind of talked on it already a little bit, but what are some of the, I think, like the key lessons that you've kind of, like the hardships that you've went, oh man, I grew there, you know,
Right.
like what's something that was just super challenging?
I would think one thing is what I've learned so much, and just by being in a different seat right now and trying to lead other people and be in that position, is the tone that we take and how we say things has such a profound effect on us, right? I mean, I can ask you and be disappointed in something you did, and how I say it may totally change how you receive it, and therefore can we have a conversation for both of us to, you know, take care of whatever the issue was and to move on. I think that's the big thing. I think that I think the best leaders are not necessarily the fire and brimstone that I'm going to pump you up, but then I'm going to yell and scream and do those things. I think you really have to listen to people, almost be stoic from that perspective, and sometimes and then obviously have, you know, you have to have energy, and people have to see that and know that you're into what's happening and it's important to you, but they also have to see that you can be calm in the eye of the storm, right? That you can do that. And I think I've learned that, maybe being a little bit older and now doing this for a while, like I need to get over myself sometimes and just, again, take feedback and do those types of things. So I think tone's a big thing, and becoming a good listener.
Right.
I just think all leadership starts with listening.
Yeah.
It's really the key.
Yeah. I see that. I see that being a little bit stoic. Like I mean, I'm still, I feel like in my role, like I still got some of that, you know, that, you know, I want to conquer the world, you know, like, and people mention that, like they'll say it to me, like, hey man, take it easy.
Well, I'm not perfect, by the way.
Right,
I have my moments.
Yeah, but it's definitely a good lesson. You know, it's definitely good to be able to share that with others and let it be known, because it is rewarding, and I've seen it as well where I've kind of went, okay, and like you said, I don't know if it's like age or what does that, but it's just all of a sudden, like, and I'm sure it'll come again, but I do feel like I'm like, okay, take a breath, calm in the storm, you know, this craziness going on, we're gonna forge forward one step at a time, like let's evaluate it and let's move on, right? So man, that's really cool.
Right, and that's one thing we're trying to do with our coaches too, because I mean, I was an emotional coach, and I get that, and we all need to vent and do that.
Yeah.
But then what are we going to do from there? Like one of the things I've tried to use with my coaches to talk about is, what are you going to do with that? I mean, what do you have power over? You know, there are things you know, and Beaverton's a big school district, so we have things that happen, and it's like, I can't change that.
Right.
There are people bigger than me and stronger and more important making those decisions. What can I control? And trying to get our coaches to do the same thing. You can't constantly worry about who you think the naysayers are, or the people who are after you or whatever. You can only control your actions and how you treat your kids and those types of things. And I think if you get past worrying about everybody else, which is hard because we all do it, right? We all want to be liked. Life is a lot better. You know, you don't get in the mud and things that don't matter. You know, don't major in the minors.
Right.
You know, don't worry about all the little things. Easier said than done.
Yeah. Somebody asked me on that same kind of topic. Somebody asked me a question the other day. You know, is it the legend? I mean, is it the legacy, or is it the people? You know, like which way are you gonna like focus? I'm curious, just your own thoughts on like how you feel. And I was like, man, that's such a loaded question, because without the people, you don't have legacy, right? So it's like, it's got to be about the people. But then again, like you were saying, like if it's too much about the people, then you don't move forward as an individual, because you allow the crab, what's it, like the
in the
crabs
bucket,
in a barrel.
and you can't get out, right?
Yeah, you can't get out. And so as you're trying to elevate people, like if you keep constantly going back, like it's not helping the big picture. And if you don't get yourself to a high enough level to be able to actually help and influence and lead, so to speak, then what's the point? Right now you're back going, and so it was a very loaded question for me. Like I was like, is it legacy or
That's
people?
a good one. I would answer it this way, and maybe this isn't where you're going, but I think if you invest in people, truly invest in people, I think you can create your legacy, if that makes sense. Because if people enjoy you and they admire what you're doing and they're working hard and they understand why you're doing things, I think that can create opportunities for all of us to go somewhere and do different things. I mean, I just think back to myself when we moved out here, we knew nobody.
Yeah.
And now I feel even just 6 years being an athletic director, which in this state there are people who have been in 20, 30 years, lots of great people.
Right.
But I feel like because I put myself out there and done some of the things that we've done, like I know people. I know people kind of respect what I'm trying to do and those types of things. And I'm far from perfect, believe me, far from perfect. But I mean, there's that you put yourself out there and you take a gamble. There's a saying in so many books that we've read, you can choose courage or comfort. You can't choose both.
Right.
And if you're in the comfort zone all the time, it's really hard to grow and elevate, as you said.
Yeah.
You really have to make yourself uncomfortable at times to get that done.
Yeah, it's not just there too. Like even in the military, they said that. Like, but it was, you're either gonna fear me or respect me. But it was like, it was kind of that same thing, And I had an issue, especially since we're talking leadership. I had an issue when I was young, and I've been trying to token it. I think it's like young leader syndrome or something of that nature. I don't really know yet. But it's like when you get a new role and you're super ambitious about it. You just want it to be perfect. You just want to prove that you're capable.
Right.
And you're so focused and you're just getting it. And fortunately for me, I had a strong mentor, an NCO or a non-commissioned officer that was willing to pull me aside and said, "Hey, Cornell, when you're done, come chat with me really quick." And he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey man, you're doing a great job. Like the company appreciates it, everything." He said, "You're not doing nothing wrong," because I was like, "Pull me to your office."
Right. I'm in trouble.
And he's like, "No, you're not doing nothing wrong." He said, "You're doing great." He said, "However, I'm just wondering if there's a different way." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, you're kind of a dick." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, you're just getting it done. And so you're barking orders instead of working with everybody. You're just like, "I need this, I need that, I need this, and let's do this." And he said, "And so I don't know, I'm just wondering if there's a different way." And I was like, "Oh, whatever. They're just pansies."
Because you were young, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, "They're pansies. They can't handle it." I got this. And he says, "Okay, sounds good." And he says, "Well, have a good night, Cornell. At the end of it, it's really on you. You can't. It's your choice." He goes, "But remember, it's your legacy." And I didn't at the time. Like I remember dismissing that.
Right.
Like whatever. Got home, talked to the missus, and she says, "Well, are you a dick?" And I'm like, once again, there's pansies. But really once I laid my head down to rest for bed, like I realized, like, is there a different way? Can I do this differently if I'm really claiming to be the best?
Right.
Maybe there's a better way to do it. And I dove in. Books. So.
Well, and I think when we're all young, and I think of myself as a young coach, and that same thing, I'm trying to prove myself. And as a young coach, you prove yourself by winning.
Right.
So everything is a little heightened because if you don't win, people are going to think you're horrible at what you do.
Right.
And it's really a dichotomy because as I got older as a coach, I realized I didn't know as much as I thought I did.
Yeah.
So I actually now listen to people and learn more and actually became a better coach and figured out it wasn't about me.
Right.
I needed to get the players to see what we're trying to do. And again, like you said, is there a different way, right? You don't have to be that person constantly because people ultimately don't respond to it. It works for a short period of time.
Very
people
limited.
do things out of fear or love, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather have them do it out of love because they're going to give you their heart and soul, and that's the difference. And that's what we're trying to get our coaches to do with kids. Like, you can be. I think you could always be tough on people.
Right.
If they know you've got your back and they respect you, you have a relationship and can do that. And some of that is a soft tough, telling somebody you love them or, hey, this is why we're doing it and we care about you.
Yeah.
I think they'll run through walls for you. But your employees don't get that. I don't think they care.
See, and that's, man, because I mean, it's so much more rewarding. right? Like, and I imagine that's super hard because that's how it feels. It's like if you're not winning, then you're not coaching, right? But it's, I think, like, maybe I'm wrong here, but it's more than that, right? Because it's really about helping the individual, right? Helping the kid, seeing the bigger picture, seeing the team aspect, working together as a community. I imagine, you know.
Yeah.
It's probably hard to get that message.
It is hard, and we've talked about with our coaches too. You know, a number of them will do volunteer projects with their kids. They'll go serve at soup kitchens. They'll do all kinds of different things like that, which I think teach life lessons, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing we've talked about, you know, when people above us, you know, where's your return on investment, right? Where's your ROI? And it's like, I don't think in what we do, we know that for 10 or 20 years. What kind of husband, father do you turn out to be? What kind of employee are you?
Right.
Those are the things that really can measure the effectiveness of what a coach or a mentor is having on a young person, or even on us, right?
Yeah, because you don't know.
Right, exactly.
I mean, there might be like a moment that they're lingering onto. You know, you had no clue.
Right, exactly. So, a different way of thinking about it, you know, and I think what we've tried to talk about with people too is when they hear that, they think it's the soft stuff, right? Like that stuff, and it's like, I think it's just the opposite. If you can get that piece, like I said, I think you can be really hard on anybody.
Right.
Like if you and I have a great relationship and you work for me, I can be tough on you. I can get after you if I need to.
Right.
But I also give you the positive, and you know that I have your back and I care about you. You're going to respond to that.
Right.
But without the relationship, you're going to look for a different job. You're going to say, that guy is a dick, so to speak.
Yeah, you just check out.
Yeah.
You're like, I'll go somewhere else.
Right, exactly.
I can get beat up somewhere else, you know? Like, I can find somewhere better than this.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I can be happier somewhere else. Man. So I feel like we've burned through, like, so much time so quick talking about this stuff, which clearly shows that we're both passionate about this topic, right? So really quick, you know, like I said, we met, right? We met at the AGC you were presenting. So you've kind of got this little side thing where you're kind of bringing your years of experience on the road a little bit, right?
Right.
A little bit of getting out there and doing some presentation stuff, and so.
That's really what I'm trying to do right now. Is I think my wife calls it a side hustle. I don't know if that's the right term or not. I'm sure everybody's got those things going on. But I really love what I do for my day job. But I also really think because of what I've learned and the experiences I've had, you know, teaching for years, now coaching coaches, having coached kids for, you know, decades, so to speak. I'm like, I feel like I have something to share. And my real goal is to not let them make the same mistakes I made. Like if I can help some 30-year-old coach not do the stupid things I did when I was that age, because I was gonna, you know, I was the best, you know, I was gonna prove that to everybody, then I feel it's worthwhile. And kind of with the, you know, trying to speak a little bit and do some different things. Someday I want to write a book. I don't know what that would be about at this point in time, but I think I have something to say, and I'm kind of excited what the next, you know, part of life looks like.
Next
you know,
chapter.
what's the next chapter, right? It's not, my wife would say you never retire, you just move on to the next thing. So maybe that'll be the next thing for me.
Well, I'll have to, speaking of community, I'll have to get you connected. You know, we had a Vietnam vet. It was on the show, and he was trying to explain that everybody has a book, and it's super easy, and he could show anybody how to write a book. He's like, it's super easy. He's like, I wrote a book on our trip about going to Disneyland. And he did. He turned it into a book. He had pictures in there and told the story and had a full book. And so and it's got a thing on Amazon and everything. So you can buy it, this book. You know, it has it published and everything. And I'm like, okay.
Well, if I come on your show enough, maybe I'll be famous enough that somebody will buy a book, right?
Right, there you go. So, but yeah, so something I like to do as we're wrapping it up, we're coming to the end here, is I feel like there was so much more we could talk about. I feel like we could do round 2 super easily and dive even deeper into some of these topics. But what I like to do at the last little moment here is I like to give the platform to you. You know, I like to give this platform to you to kind of speak to the world, so to speak. And, you know, whatever it might be that's on your mind, you know, kind of talk to the world and,
There's no teleprompter or anything telling me what to say.
No, it gets to come genuine. You know, whatever it might be. You know, we've had people talk about the price of Christmas trees and how that's ridiculous. Shout out to you, Grandma.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly, right?
So, but anyhow, yeah. So I want to give you the floor to talk to the world.
Okay. Well, I guess what I would say is that I'm really warmed up to the idea of growth, and that's where we talk about become a better you. It's really about improving as a person. I really believe as leaders and people, if we first off can't improve ourselves, how do we expect others around us or people who work for us to, you know, to possibly improve themselves? So that's one thing. I think that's the constant reading for me. That's trying to help coaches and do all the things that we do, because that is so important. And I think if we want to improve and the journey never ends, we have to constantly look for ways to get better as individuals. And that's different for everybody. Everybody has their own way of doing that. For me, it's trying to improve myself so I can help the people that I work with. Ultimately, I hope our coaches are better, because if they are, we know the kids will have a better experience. Whether that's winning more games or not really isn't the idea of it, but they become better people and more well-rounded people at some point in time. So I think that's the goal of what I hope happens. And with the business, every time I talk about, you know, character and communication and listening and all those different types of things, it becomes more solidified for me. That's how you can change your little corner of the world. You know, believe in people, mentor people, help them out. And like you said, when you were 25, you weren't ready to listen when you first heard it. We all get there at different points, and that's the same thing with our coaches or kids that I work with. I mean, everybody gets at their own time. But something they learned today, it might be 10 years ago, or 10 years from now when the light goes on, they go, wow, that person told me that. That makes so much sense, and I'm going to work on that. So that's kind of my message. Just don't quit. And I've got more books for you too, by the way. I will get you a list, and we'll keep moving. And I'll get your list also, because again, I'm excited to learn more myself. So I think that'd be my message. I don't know if that's great or not, but that's what I got for you.
Sounds good. All right, people. Thank you for tuning in to We the People, an American Pod Show. And as always, keep rocking the free world. Later.